How many times have you changed yourself for someone's love? How many opinions have you swallowed? How many dreams have you dimmed? How much of yourself have you lost trying to become lovable? Your body knows the answer, even if your mind refuses to listen. Here's what I know after decades of watching people chase love in all the wrong places. The hardest part about finding love isn't finding the right person. It's believing you deserve to be loved for who you truly are. You see, every failed relationship you've experienced was really asking you one question. Do you love yourself enough to show up authentically? Not as who you think they want, not as some perfect version of yourself, but as your beautifully imperfect, gloriously human self. Let me share something that might surprise you. The people who attract love effortlessly aren't more beautiful than you. They're not more successful. They're not blessed with special powers. They simply understand one profound truth that changes everything. Love recognizes love. Think about the last time you felt truly attracted to someone. I'll bet it wasn't just their physical appearance. Maybe they had this ease about them. Maybe they seemed comfortable in their own skin. Maybe they made you feel like you could be yourself around them. They were radiating something, and that something was self-love. Your soul was responding to their soul, but your mind was creating stories about why you weren't good enough for them. This is where most people get stuck. They think attracting love is about becoming more attractive. Losing weight, making more money, learning clever conversation tricks. But here's the uncomfortable truth. All that external improvement is just fear dressed up as self-betterment. You already have everything you need to be deeply loved. You're just scared to show it. Let me tell you about Anna. She spent 5 years trying to find her soulmate, 5 years of dating apps, 5 years of makeovers, 5 years of becoming whatever each man seemed to want. But in our first conversation, when I asked her to describe herself without mentioning her job, her appearance, or her achievements, she went completely silent. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. Here's what I told her, and this might change how you see every relationship ahead of you. There are no perfect people. There are only people brave enough to be imperfect out loud and people hiding their humanity behind masks. Anna was afraid of being rejected for who she really was, but she was already rejecting herself every day she pretended to be someone else. The choice wasn't between love and rejection. It was between authentic love and empty validation. You face this same choice in every interaction. Will you show up as yourself or as your representative? Will you connect from your truth or from your fear? Will you choose vulnerability or performance? But let's be honest about something. There's a reason you wear these masks. There's a reason you hide your real self. You're not just protecting yourself from rejection. You're protecting yourself from the terror of being fully seen. Every time you show your authentic self, you risk someone seeing your shadows, your insecurities, your wounds, your weird quirks. And that's terrifying. Your ego would rather have you loved for a lie than risk being rejected for the truth. This is a psychological danger zone where most people get trapped. They convince themselves they're just putting their best foot forward. They tell themselves everyone does it. But what they're really doing is abandoning themselves for breadcrumbs of approval. Watch how your mind works when you're interested in someone. Notice the stories it tells you. I need to lose 10 pounds first. I should wait until I get that promotion. I need to be more interesting. These aren't facts. These are fears wearing the mask of self-improvement. Your mind is trying to protect you from the vulnerability of being seen. But here's what it doesn't understand. Hiding your real self is far more painful than risking rejection. The energy it takes to maintain a false persona is exhausting you. It's keeping you lonely, even when you're with someone. Think about your last relationship. Feel how much mental energy went into being what you thought they wanted. How much time you spent analyzing their reactions, adjusting your behavior, editing your words. Now imagine redirecting all that energy toward simply being yourself, toward loving yourself so completely that their approval becomes nice, but not necessary. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you stop performing for love, something shifts. You become magnetic, not because you've learned new techniques, but because you've stopped fighting your own nature. I want you to try something right now. Think of someone whose love you're craving. Close your eyes if you can. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself this question. If I knew I would be completely loved for exactly who I am right now, how would I behave? Listen to the first answer that comes. Don't judge it, don't analyze it, just notice it. That's your authentic self speaking. That's the version of you that's irresistible to the right people. Everything else is just armor. The people who attract lasting love have learned to trust this authentic self above all other voices. They understand that trying to be what someone else wants is impossible because you'll never know what someone else truly wants until they know who you truly are. This doesn't mean being careless with people's feelings. It doesn't mean dumping all your baggage on the first date. It means showing up as genuinely yourself and letting the right people recognize your light. Instead of, how can I make them like me? Ask, do I actually like them? Instead of, what should I wear to impress them? Ask, what makes me feel like myself? Instead of, what's the perfect thing to say? Ask, what's the true thing to say? You see, when you align your love life with your authentic self, you stop struggling against the current of who you are. You stop working so hard. Things begin to flow. The right people appear. Conversations become effortless. Connection happens natural. This isn't magic. It's energy. When you're performing a version of yourself, you're scattered. Your energy is divided. You're sending mixed signals about who you are. But when you align with your truth, your energy becomes focused, clear, magnetic. Let me tell you what happens when you start dating from this place of self-acceptance. First, you stop needing constant reassurance that someone likes you. Their interest becomes wonderful, but not essential. You realize that someone who doesn't appreciate your authentic self isn't your person anyway. Second, you stop seeing every interaction as pass or fail. You understand that dating is simply discovering whether two authentic people complement each other. If they don't, it's information, not rejection. Third, you develop unshakable confidence in your lovability. Not because everyone will love you, but because you know the people meant for you absolutely will. But here's the part that might challenge everything you've been taught about attraction. Sometimes being authentic means some people won't like you. Sometimes it means triggering someone's insecurities. Sometimes it means standing out when you'd rather blend in. I once worked with a woman named Amelia, who was incredibly smart and passionate about social justice. But on dates, she would dumb herself down and avoid controversial topics. She was afraid her intelligence and convictions would intimidate men. The men she attracted were indeed unthreatened by her. They were also completely wrong for her. They couldn't match her depth. They couldn't appreciate her fire. They wanted a diminished version of her because they were diminished versions of themselves. When she finally decided to show up fully as herself, brilliant, passionate, uncompromising in her values, yes, some men were intimidated. But one man was fascinated. He loved her mind. He was inspired by her convictions. He wanted to change the world alongside her. This is what happens when you honor your authentic self in love. You stop attracting people who want you small and start attracting people who celebrate your full magnitude. But I want to be very clear about something. Showing up authentically doesn't mean your romantic life will be easy. It means your romantic life will be real. It means the connections you make will be based on truth instead of illusion. The people who struggle most with dating are those who are trying to avoid all possibility of rejection. But growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Love doesn't bloom in sterile environments. Your heart didn't come here to play it safe. Let me share something else that might shift everything for you. The person you're meant to love deeply is probably someone you can't imagine being with right now. Not because they're out of your league, but because you haven't become who you need to be to recognize them yet. Think about the relationships that have changed you most profoundly. They probably challenged you, pushed you to grow, helped you discover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. Real love isn't just acceptance, it's expansion. But you can't expand into who you're becoming if you're busy maintaining who you think you should be. There's a part of you that's been hiding for years, maybe decades. The part that's too much, too weird, too sensitive, too intense, too different. You've been convinced this part of you is unlovable, but what if it's actually the most lovable part of you? What if your quirks aren't flaws to hide, but gifts to share? What if your sensitivity isn't weakness, but strength? What if your intensity isn't too much for the right person, but exactly what they've been craving? I remember a man named Rob who came to me convinced he was too emotional for dating. He cried easily. He felt things deeply. Previous partners had called him dramatic, oversensitive, exhausting. He learned to shut down his emotions, to present this stoic masculine facade, but he was miserable. And so were the women he dated. They couldn't connect with someone who wasn't really there. When he finally allowed himself to feel again, to cry when something moved him, to express his tenderness openly, everything changed. The woman he eventually married told me, his emotional availability is what I fell in love with. His ability to feel deeply makes me feel safe to feel deeply. This is what authentic love looks like. Two people who give each other permission to be fully human. Two people who see each other's shadows and choose to love them anyway. Two people brave enough to be imperfect together. But here's something beautiful that happens when you start showing up authentically in love. You begin to attract people who are also brave enough to be real. You begin to have conversations that matter. You begin to build connection instead of just chemistry. The energy you've been spending on maintaining a perfect image becomes available for actually connecting. The mental space you've been using to calculate what they want to hear becomes free to discover what you genuinely want to share. Think about the last time you felt completely comfortable with someone, not just attracted to them, but at ease. Remember how natural the conversation felt? How time seemed to disappear, how you found yourself sharing things you normally keep hidden. That's what authentic connection feels like. That's what happens when two real people meet each other without masks. Life starts flowing instead of forcing. But let's talk about what happens when you don't show up authentically. When you keep performing and pretending and hoping someone will love your representative. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually spending your life energy on maintaining relationships that can't feed your soul. Every day you pretend to be someone you're not is a day you're choosing loneliness, even when you're with someone. You're choosing to be loved for a lie instead of risking being loved for the truth. And that false love will never satisfy the deep hunger in your heart. The relationship that requires you to hide who you are continues to starve you. The person who can only love your performance continues to miss your essence. The connection that demands your silence continues to echo with emptiness. This is the hidden cost of inauthentic love. Not just what you might lose by being real, but what you're definitely losing by staying fake. Your vitality, your joy, your sense of being known, your ability to love fully in return. I want you to feel something right now. Feel the weight of all the masks you've been wearing. Feel how exhausting it is to constantly monitor your words, your expressions, your reactions. Feel how lonely it is to be with someone who doesn't actually know you. Now imagine setting those masks down. Imagine being seen and loved for exactly who you are. Imagine the relief of finally being able to breathe freely in someone's presence. So when you're afraid of being too much, remember this. The person meant for you has been searching for exactly your kind of too much. When you're tempted to hide your weirdness, remember that your weirdness is your magic. When you want to tone yourself down, remember that the right person has been waiting for your full volume. The question isn't whether someone will reject your authentic self. Some people will. The question is whether you'll reject yourself by hiding who you are, or whether you'll love yourself enough to let your true beauty shine. Because that's what real attraction is about. Love or fear, authenticity or performance, connection or validation, your real self or your representative. When you understand this, dating becomes not just easier, but sacred. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to practice being yourself, to honor your truth, to step more fully into your own lovability. You stop looking for someone to complete you and start sharing your completeness. You stop trying to be chosen and start doing the choosing. You stop asking, am I good enough? And start asking, are we good for each other? The love that feels hardest to risk is often the love your soul is calling you to experience. The vulnerability that scares you most, the truth you've been hiding, the heart you've been protecting. Your fear isn't proof you shouldn't open up. Your fear is proof of how much it matters. Your soul is trying to expand, and expansion requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires courage. But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you commit to showing up authentically in love, the universe begins to support you in ways you never expected. The right people appear. Conversations deepen. Hearts open. Not because you've manipulated anything, but because you've stopped fighting your own nature. You realize that love was never really yours to earn. Your worthiness was never in question. Your job was simply to get out of your own way and let your natural lovability shine. This is how you make anyone fall in love with you, not by becoming what they want, but by becoming so fully yourself that the right person can't help but recognize their home in your heart. Right now, there's someone out there searching for exactly what you have to offer. They're tired of surface connections. They're craving authentic love. They're ready for someone brave enough to be real. But they can't find you if you're hiding behind a mask. They can't love you if you won't let them see you. They can't choose you if you won't first choose yourself. Stop waiting to be perfect. Perfect is boring. Stop trying to be what everyone wants. Be what the right person needs. Stop hiding your beautiful mess. Someone is looking for exactly your kind of chaos. Trust your lovability. Trust your worthiness. Trust that who you are right now in this moment is enough. Not just enough to be tolerated, but enough to be cherished. Your love story is waiting. Your person is searching. Your heart is ready. The only question is whether you'll finally let yourself be seen, whether you'll finally trust that your authentic self is your most attractive self, whether you'll finally love yourself enough to let someone else love you too. But let's get practical for a moment. How do you actually do this? How do you show up authentically when you've spent years learning to perform? Start with your body language. Your body tells the truth even when your words lie. When you're being authentic, your shoulders relax, your breathing deepens, your gestures become natural instead of calculated. Pay attention to how your body feels when you're being real versus when you're performing. Next, listen to your voice, not just your words, but your tone. When you're being yourself, your voice has a natural rhythm. It rises and falls organically. It carries emotion without apology. When you're performing, your voice sounds flat, careful, controlled. Then notice your energy. Authenticity is energizing. Performance is draining. When you're being real, you feel alive, even if you're nervous. When you're pretending, you feel exhausted, even if the interaction goes well. Watch your curiosity. When you're authentic, you're genuinely interested in the other person. You ask questions because you want to know, not because you're supposed to ask. When you're performing, you're too busy monitoring their reactions to actually connect with their answers. Here's something that might surprise you. The moments when you feel most vulnerable are often the moments when you're most attractive, not because vulnerability is a strategy, but because it's the only way to create real intimacy. That story you're embarrassed about, that dream you're afraid sounds foolish, that opinion you think might be unpopular, that struggle you're convinced makes you damaged goods, these aren't flaws to hide. They're bridges to connection. But be gentle with yourself as you practice authenticity. You don't have to share everything with everyone. You don't have to be completely open on the first meeting. Authenticity isn't about having no boundaries. It's about having honest ones. Start small. Share something real, but not overwhelming. Express a genuine opinion about something light. Let your natural sense of humor emerge. Notice how it feels when someone responds positively to the real you. And when someone responds negatively, when they seem put off by your authenticity or uncomfortable with your truth, celebrate. You've just discovered that this person isn't your match. You've saved yourself months or years of pretending to be compatible with someone who can't handle your reality. Here's what I've learned after decades of watching people navigate love. There are no wrong people to be authentic with, only different kinds of valuable information. Every interaction teaches you something about who appreciates your truth and who do. The people who can't handle your authenticity aren't rejecting you, they're revealing their own limitations. They're showing you they're not equipped for the kind of love you're capable of, giving and receiving. This doesn't make them bad people, it makes them the wrong people for you. And discovering that early saves everyone time, energy, and heartache. But here's something crucial I need you to understand. Your authentic self isn't always going to feel confident at first. Sometimes being real means admitting you're nervous. Sometimes it means saying you don't know something. Sometimes it means showing up imperfectly instead of not showing up at all. Authenticity isn't about having it all figured out. It's about being honest about the figuring out process. It's about letting someone see you in your humanity instead of in your highlight reel. The person who will love you most deeply will be someone who finds your uncertainty endearing, not off-putting. Someone who sees your growth edges as opportunities to support you, not reasons to fix you. This is why authentic love feels so different from performed love. It's based on who you are, not what you do. It deepens over time instead of fading. It makes you more yourself, not less. Pay attention to how people make you feel about yourself. Do they inspire you to be more authentic or more perfect? Do they celebrate your quirks or try to smooth them out? Do they make you feel accepted or like you need to earn their love? The right person won't just love your authentic self, they'll help you love your authentic self more fully. They'll see beauty in parts of you that you've been trying to change. They'll appreciate gifts in you that you've been trying to hide. But I need to tell you about something that happens when you start this journey, something no one talks about. The people in your life might resist your authenticity. Your friends might feel uncomfortable when you stop agreeing with everything they say. Your family might question why you're suddenly being difficult. This resistance isn't about you, it's about them. When you start being real, you hold up a mirror to everyone around you, and some people don't like what they see reflected back. They were comfortable with your false self because it didn't challenge them to examine their own masks. Your authenticity threatens their comfort zone. It reminds them of all the ways they're not being real. Don't let their discomfort pull you back into hiding. Your courage to be authentic gives others permission to be authentic too. But not everyone is ready for that permission. Some people will choose to stay in their performance rather than risk the vulnerability of being seen. That's their choice. Your choice is to keep being real anyway. Here's something else that will happen. You'll start noticing inauthenticity everywhere. You'll see through people's masks more clearly. You'll feel when someone is performing instead of connecting. This new awareness might feel overwhelming at first. You might think everyone is fake, no one is real. But look closer. There are authentic people everywhere. They're just harder to spot when you're hiding behind your own mask. When you start being real, the real people find you. It's like you're speaking a language that only certain people understand, a language of truth, a language of the heart. These connections will feel different, deeper, more alive. You'll wonder how you ever settled for surface level interactions. Remember this when the journey feels difficult, when authenticity feels risky, when you're tempted to go back to your old ways of performing for love. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're growing. It's your soul celebrating its freedom after years of imprisonment. The time for hiding is over. The time for pretending is past. The time for loving yourself enough to be yourself is now. Not someday when you feel ready. Not someday when you're perfect. Now, in this moment, with this breath, with this beating heart, that's been patiently waiting for you to remember your own lovability. Show up as yourself. Trust your worthiness. Let your light shine. Your love story is waiting on the other side of your courage to be seen.